And now, my dear friends, as we are moving ahead, so we'll be going to the session 7. And in this session 7, we are going to talk about humanizing HR tech innovations for the hybrid workplace. So this is a subject what we are going to explore now. When we talk about this new world of working employees and the businesses, so everything has been transformed after this pandemic thing. So post pandemic, how we are going to humanize the HR technology, this is very important because at the end of the day, whatever technology we are using, we need to have a human touch to it so that all of us, when we are working together, be it virtually, even then we are connected through hearts and we are connected through our conversations and we are connected mentally because if we are connected through the wavelengths, then we can work like I can feel like more in a more beneficial way. So this is the session 7 in which we are addressing this humanizing HR tech. And my panelists, I can see them over here popping out one by one. Welcome, sir. A very good evening to all of you.
Hi, good
Good evening,
evening.
Shilpa.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. And as all my panelists are here, so one by one, I am going to take the names of the panelists and I would like to give a very brief introduction because then Captain Ved Singh will take it over and he will just organize this all the session and this moderation thing. And as my Shilpa Bhavna thing, I am going to just introduce moderator at the end. So, sir, I'll start with the panelist. Firstly, in this session, my dear friends, we have with us Chief Human Resources Officer, Teams Computer, Mr. Amulya Saw. Welcome, sir. Also, we have with us the Senior VP and Head HR, Arohan Financial, Mr. Prashant Rai. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, and of course, we have with us our session moderator, Regional Customer Success Director, Darwin Box Captain Ved Singh. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Shilpa. Thank you so much.
Hello,
Thank you
sir.
so very
And
much.
so it's really, I would say that scintillating evening because in this evening we had the women power just now talking about how we can unleash the potential of the women workforce. And now you people are going to talk about the human touch in HR technology. So like that's like really quite opposite. Not women talking about it, but men are.
So I think we must congratulate SOCHAM for this wonderful platform that you've created and this
Of
extravaganza over
course.
the 3 days. Starting from yesterday's session, we had Vineet, we had Mr. Munjal there, some very interesting learnings, and till this last session, on women empowerment, I think very interesting setups, and I'm sure the next one is going to be even more interesting.
Yeah, so let's look forward to it, sir. We all are looking forward to it. And before I hand over this screen to you, let me please give a formal introduction of yours to the participants and the panelists as well. Of course, you people know each other, but this is my formal duty to do that. So, my dear panelists and the participants, I would like to tell you something about Captain Wade, who is going to be the session moderator. Captain Wade is a director and a part of the leadership team at Darwin Bots. He drives implementations and customer success for 4 geographies, including parts of India, Middle East, and Africa. He also leads Darwin Partner Ecosystem amongst top 40 HR influencers in India, and Captain Wade comes with 17 plus years of experience in HR and HR technology space. So the person who is having so much of experience in the technology space, I'm really looking forward to that what he has to say about the human touch to that technology. So, sir, now it's over to you, Captain Wade. It's over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, and good evening to all our participants of Work Vision. And as I shared, it has been fantastic since yesterday, sessions after the sessions. So, taking over in terms of the next piece and of this evening, humanizing HR tech, the innovations for the hybrid workplace. Let me uh, let me just share one presentation I put together, and we will also then move to the respective sections of this session to share when you can see my screen. Okay. Mhm. Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, a year, uh, uh, if we go 12 months back or 18 months back, I'm sure work from home or office could have been a debate. And in between, I'm sure there has been many. When the pandemic started moving into its different phases during the last year, there were multiple debates that started happening, whether it will be work from home or it will come back to what it was pre-pandemic. What we are seeing of late, the future of work is hybrid. Uh, Welcome to this session, Humanizing HR Tech, and our two panelists, Amulya, Prashant. Welcome once again to the session. And we take this opportunity uh, in this next 45 minutes to share our experiences and what we have observed together as a team, and look forward to your questions and answering them at the later part of the session, to share the larger piece that we are also seeing in future or in days that are coming forward. As part of Darwinbox, one of the fastest growing platform from Asia for the world, and experiencing 550 plus enterprises, more than a million end users on the platform, there have been many experiences that we have had, many learnings that we have had in the last 1.5 year as to how organizations are moving towards hybrid and leveraging technology to be there. We'll be sharing some of those experiences, and happy to part with some of the case studies that we have done with some of our clients, alongside our panelists sharing their own experiences. Somebody said, who's that somebody? So somebody said that hybrid work is here to stay and transform the world like never before. It's something probably that's becoming a part of the work life of each and every person, leader, organization in some or the other ways. Some of the organizations may have sects of the organization working hybrid, and while there could be others where the hybrid is the way of working. Recently, this was one of the meme that was shared with me on WhatsApp and placed it here. One of the friend was talking that after wave one, we opened our offices and we found that many of the people came back to office and were looking forward to more and more workforce working again in a similar fashion like the pre-pandemic era. But this time, when we have reopened the office, the and gave this option to people that they can opt whether to work from office or from home. On some of the days, the percentage of people operating from office was even less than 5%. And and the question was, what is it that is keeping people working from home? Is it something that we need to is it something that we need to look into, that people are not coming over to office? Some of the research work or some of the surveys that have been done recently also focusing on this, where Microsoft Work Index trend picked up that over 73% of the leaders say that their companies are considering redesigning their office to to make them more suitable for hybrid work. Similarly, on the work side, over 74% of employees wanted flexible remote work options to stay even after the pandemic is over. And this was complemented by another research by BCG, a survey, a large set of survey that was done, in which they found out that the over this period of last 1.5 year, the employees are finding greater satisfaction in their connectivity with their peers and the workforce around them. Alongside that, they're also finding a pickup or a push up in the productivity. A great thing for both. There is greater satisfaction from the workforce as well as the productivity going up. And it is not only a trend in India, it is worldwide. The hybrid in various forms and uh, various ways is making its way across the world. This is a Gensler Global survey that was carried out and brought up in that in India, almost 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 people are preferring hybrid work model, where there could be a percentage of time or a percentage of their work days from a specific location, but the rest is flexible. And how this is becoming a reality, how this is happening, and also boosting productivity is technology. As we said, riding on technology, the hybrid work is here to stay. Probably it won't have been moving in so well without the technology. These words that we see, this was a small word cloud that was created in a session with certain participants where uh, we were trying to understand as to what are the technologies that are enabling the future of work or the which is enabling the hybrid work. And a lot of it came in. One very critical factor came in, that was conversational AI and data. The insights being available to all the sects of people. It is moving now from leadership to each and every manager. The data democratization and the conversational AI, the voice as the UI. It's becoming, it's moving in so fast. As we said that, uh, the contribution to fastest rollover or the fastest movement to technology advancements has been not carried out by the CEOs, not by strategy, but by the pandemic. What also happened, the technology advancement also took a leap. And when we look at people, the future of AI is also being looked at very, very positively in terms of more than 57% of people who deployed AI wanted to improve the employee experience. More than 62% have looked at enhancing the data-driven decision making. The 13% of organizations, which was just about 2.5% a year back, have already deployed a part of AI in some or the other form in their people organizations. So I feel what has driven this part is the availability of technology, as well as the availability as well as the pandemic coming together to boost the hybrid work. Coming to our panelists, we have a fantastic panel. I'll come to Prashant first. Hey, Prashant.
Hi, Ved.
So setting this as our a brief start point, Prashant, as you as the HR head for I love the organization and doing probably such an amazing work for the underserved sector, and growing to be amongst the top 5 NBFC MFI organizations in the country. I think some phenomenal work there, and I'm sure similar work being done for the people behind this. So Prashant, how are you looking at last 1 year, the moved in, and probably the way the hybrid work, this culture.
Ved, I'm not able to hear you. There's a bit of a
What have been the revelations for you, Prashant, in the last 1.5 years?
Yeah. So Ved, thanks for this. At the same time, thanks to Work Vision as well, giving us this opportunity. Uh, Well, Ved, as you rightly said that, our organization, our own financial services, we are one of the largest NBFC MFI, which is based out of East. We have almost around 7,000 plus kind of a workforce which work with us presently, spread across different parts of India. Uh, you can say, fortunately, unfortunately, we didn't have the pleasure of having, a proper hybrid kind of a work environment, because we are a very uh, kind of field oriented kind of an organization. So there, most of our people had to be in the field to really work. And there, I think we didn't had an opportunity as such to kind of, really work on a hybrid mode. But some of our zonal offices and regional offices, those were the places where we had a fairly good amount of hybrid working, and which we are still trying out and which is still working out for us. So basically, we are more of a kind of, you can say, office-based culture. So what is the biggest transformation which brought about is this transformation which happened because of pandemic, I would say, is more to do with our employee life cycle and how we went ahead in terms of our onboarding of people into the organization. So if you look at, we had a fairly significant amount of people at the bottom of the pyramid, and most of these people whom we are hiring are basically in the very remote areas of India. And most of this hiring before pandemic was basically happening in a physical mode, right? And once the pandemic came about, I think the biggest challenge for us was to how do we transform this whole process of physical interaction, physical drives that we were conducting to make it into a virtual drive, or if not, then to kind of work through a process whereby we could still not disturb the overall business quality of the people getting into the system. At the same time, make sure that all the process and policies are properly taken care of. So in that regard, I think we did two aspects. One is we collaborated front end with a lot of aggregators to basically help us out in this whole exercise of onboarding people into our organization. Second is also training our own existing manpower who are there, who are basically, working in that physical mode to get into the virtual mode as quickly as possible. Right from, digitizing your overall content, your training content, also ensuring that the people who are there, they are trained how to take interviews on a virtual mode, the way in which we are doing now. Right. So similar kind of activities is something which we had to do it at a very rapid speed, because the fact that we were also expanding quite extensively at that period. So because of that, we had to make sure that all of this technology which we were having, we could accelerate a lot of our activities and make sure that these are some of the activities which we would take it up as quickly as possible, and to work through with our own existing people to make sure that we would be able to contribute back to the business.
And especially looking at the kind of areas that your teams operate, the tier two, tier threes. I'm sure there would have been multiple challenges in terms of technology, connectivity, even the end users. The kind of the people who are consuming the products and services that you have. Their savviness with technology must have been a great revelation as to
Oh
how
yes.
all this came together.
That was one of the biggest challenges. With one was to kind of literally work on the bandwidth part, and as you rightly said, tier 3 and tier 2 kind of cities which are there, we don't have that kind of infrastructural support. So we had to work on a module which was both an offline module as well as an online module. So where you could still connect, it had to be uh, by your bandwidth. It would be low on bandwidth. You could connect with those your platforms more quickly. We could also upload the system even once you'll come back to your branches. You'll come back to a location where the technology is better, or at least the bandwidths are better. So those were some of the things which were practical challenges that we faced. Second, also I think training our own people who are our employees who would be joining the organization, even training them for that matter how to utilize some of these platforms. So we actually had an orientation program for them as well to learn how to utilize that platform, and then after that getting into it. So you had at the back end, you had the pandemic, you had COVID, and yet you had to make sure you are doing all of this in a virtual mode, and making people aware about it, getting them, onboarding them, training them, and bringing them into the organization. That was a
Amazing, Sam. Amazing. So I think it's coming to our second panelist of the day. Hey, Amulya.
Hi, hi, Captain Dave. You can hear me?
Yes. You're audible, and it's loud and clear. So Amulya, I think again one of the organization as the CHRO for Team Computers, one of the initial organizations or amongst the pioneer organizations which uh, which uh, took India to that stage where 30 years back, starting with an organization which was into technology, and even today leading the technology from the forefront. I'm sure technology was something that was there at your fingertips and the organization. But this space that you've picked up, I think the organization now growing at a pace of 40% or even more. I'm sure there would have been a lot of learnings of this
Absolutely.
hybrid work that you would like to share. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Captain Wade, and thanks, Asuchan. Pleasure to be here. So I like to begin with saying that we are not prepared for the situation that we are in. Okay. So pandemic was not the black swan. So the black swan for HR people was the lockdown. Absolutely not prepared to take over sending people and asking them to work from home. So this actually hit us like a big tsunami. But then we had to scramble ourselves, put ourselves together, and then make a plan to send people home, ensure that the infra was in place, hardware, software, VPNs, all kind of security for the initial 3 months or 4 months, and then ensure that the business goes as is. So because most of the business or the revenue that we have comes from product company, and it is unimaginable that we are asking people to work from home, connect with clients, and then do business. But to our surprise, I think people took it very positively. And as you said, there was a lot of digital transformation for my company as well. We were doing something in the past, but then, as you know, there was a dichotomy when the world slowed down because of pandemic. The digital transformation actually grew with double pace or triple pace. So that was the dichotomy, and we had to live to that. So we had to put all the technologies in place to start with. Let's say to look at collaboration. So we had workplace in place from Facebook, and then we had work chats where we are looking at all the projects, connecting people. So we are talking about humanizing workforce. So I looked at the dictionary, says that being human or humane, but it also has a characteristics of saying that how do we put the HR, the technologies with human character? So I think all these technologies that we're talking about, chatbots, AI, conversational, RPA, AI, and ML, and all the other tools that we have. So for collab, we had to put workplace and work chat into more proactive workspace. Then we had for sales, we had the BI and the CRM chatbots at the workplace. From HR side, of course, we partnered with you, Darwin Box. I'm thankful for that we implemented Darwin Box because people are used to coming to office, attendance, etc. But now it's all available on mobile phones, and we have the attendance being done, looking at all the locations, etc. So that has made my life a bit easier. So I was able to put the RPA in place for some of the routine things that my team was doing, which was not possible sitting at home because of the data, etc. So reports and the compliances that people are doing and spending 3-4 hours. Now takes only 5 minutes or 10 minutes to put that report. So we have our own RPA team working on it. Then, of course, we have analytics to do a lot of reporting, etc. So if I had to say that we were going in a certain way, traditional way, with the 34 years of experience that we had, with a lot of people not very, very conversant with the digital transformation. But last 6-7 months, all the challenges that we had in terms of getting the people on Hangout, discussing, and getting them to collaborate and cooperate has been very, very significant. But when you look at humanizing, so I think 2-3 things, of course, as Mr. Rai also had spoken, how do we get people on board? We were doing everything face to face, but now we've gone and doing digitally onboarding all our people across India, because we have 3,000 people and pan India sitting remotely. But all this is actually happening very, very seamlessly. The other important thing or challenge that I would say is, how did we prepare our managers actually to look at all this digital what do you say uh, things that are available for collaborating, cooperating, communicating with that. So for that, for the last 6 months, we have been training a lot of our people in terms of the email etiquette or presentation or discussion or nurturing people. So I think that is more important when it comes to transform the people who are working in certain style to move towards the digital transformation space. Because for millennials, it's very easy because they are digital natives. But what do we do for people who are like from 70s or 60s or 80s? And we have, because we are 34 years old, we have a mix of all these kinds of people who are working to work with us. So there's a set of people who are very, very digitally savvy, but the others are not. So we have to put a lot of trainings, etc., to be done with those people. So that was a big challenge for us, but I think we are now becoming better. Everybody understands that hybrid is here to stay, and I think the tale of two cities, it's a best of the time, it's worst of the times, depending upon what business are you in. But I am very happy to say that we are in product solution and services space, so we are doing well. But of course, there are other businesses which are struggling. But of course, they are also in the same boat as we are.
But wonderful, Amulya. But looking at how your teams are spread, almost I think every nook and corner. If you go from length and breadth of the country, you'll have people from team computers. It would have been challenging even in the past to have same culture that drive engagement. But did you have to recalibrate your approach towards employee engagement in view of this hybrid?
Right.
As to one was the geographical spread that you were already facing, but now even within that there are now different sects of workforce that has got created.
Right.
So did you have to do some recalibration there, and what was that?
Yeah. So first, of course, I had to train my team how to interact with people digitally, because everybody was working from their space and they're traveling to some of the places where the projects were happening and where people were seated actually. What we had to do was to recalibrate our own people to conduct meetings, to conduct engagement events over digital platforms. So that is what we had to calibrate on a regular basis. I think last year, second half, we had to spend a lot of time to do that with our people, because when you are doing something face to face and when you're doing digitally, there's a hell lot of difference in terms of humanizing and putting the human face in front of the people. So of course there's a gap. So how do we do it? How do we do effectively? How do we communicate what we want to communicate to our people? How do we ensure that people are responding and getting on board in terms of when we are doing events or town halls, etc. was a challenging in the beginning, because not many people are coming in. But slowly, as we moved and we got our people trained and our managers trained, I think the responses are much, much better now. But still, the challenges are there where you are not face to face, and when you want to interact with them and pass the right message. So we have seen, because of this, the attritions have gone high, because people thought that they were not connected with the organization, though we tried doing that over Meet or Workplace, etc. So that is one area still we are struggling.
Oh, amazing. Prashant, like in a similar way, in our case at Arohan, I'm sure there would have been similar challenges of the workforce even earlier, driving the kind of workforce that you have, which requires an additional effort in bringing them or commonizing your, appeal to the customers and consumers. So, some recalibration that you had to do, and you were also covering some part of it in the last conversation, in terms of ensuring a common experience across.
So, Ved, I think two, three things, one was definitely to see that, how do we communicate with our people, and especially as leadership, how do we communicate with people? So I would say, technology actually helped us out in this whole process, where we could actually connect to people through this different webinars, or with this different virtual meet which was happening, and you could connect with all people, communicate directly to them rather than wait for the overall protocol to be followed, which could have usually happen in a physical form. So that was something which came as a good help, I would say.
So
Second important.
like in NBFC, we hear a lot of those in-person meetings, and especially at the time of people joining in, and those in-person meetings used to have a lot of warmth and also exchange of common
Very true.
views, common values, and how we address ourselves.
Yeah.
And the employees also get attached. So how are you still ensuring it in this
No, so
hybrid
Ved, I
world?
think we have done a fairly good amount of work, not only connecting with just the people who are coming and joining us. As a matter of fact, we have gone ahead to even connect with their families, and in this whole process of, we call it the program. The program is there whereby we kind of allow their parents also to know that where their children are actually joining. So actually give them a presentation on the organization, tell them about the organization as a whole. A very interesting initiative which we started was something called the Arohan Radio itself. So, I mean, it was a channel kind of thing which we had started off, where everything that was happening in Arohan, whether it be on our process policies, whether it be on our new circulars which were there, we would do it in a way that a radio jockey would do, basically that whole session, because we have a very young workforce which is there. So our average age would fall somewhere around 28 to 29 kind of age. So very young workforce who is there. So if you had to keep them engaged, then that is something which you had to make sure that you are always doing. We also made sure that we would have something called, because I think this pandemic also resulted in a lot of stress in people, because they were staying back home, they didn't know what to do. There was a lot of uncertainty around them. So also helping them out with either some kind of a counseling sessions, or also having them connect with practicing doctors on an online mode, telling them about COVID. So this exercise, I think, helped us a lot in terms of really making people aware about what is it that is expected from them, even though they may be in a lockdown state, or even if they are working from branches, what they are supposed to do. One important aspect which we also did was to kind of make sure that we are always connected, and also have some amount of fun and employee engagement, in a virtual mode itself. So we would have a lot of competitions and everything that we would do in the virtual mode itself. Yeah, so that we are connected with them, we are connected with their families. So I think it was the most important thing, that the humanization aspect which is there is about the connect, and actually technology helps you out a lot in terms of actually enabling some of these things, to make sure that we are always connected. And I think that helps us a lot in terms of really creating that bind. So as somebody rightly said that it actually took the culture out of the building. So we were thinking that culture is when when you come together, that's when the culture happens. It is not that. It's more about connecting with your people. The culture lies with your people. And I think this pandemic actually gave you an opportunity to test that what kind of a culture you are built, and how connected you are as an organization.
Oh, wonderful. So the culture has moved out of the building. And I think this very interesting example of the Arohan Radio. You must write about it. This could be a very interesting one for many of
Sure.
us. Coming to Prashant,
just to add, Captain Ved, I think one thing, when you're connecting people remotely or digitally, it might sound very insignificant, but we have told all our people, when you are doing a hangout or on a Zoom call, your video has to be on, because you just can't talk to the names which appear, because once you are in the office face to face, you always see the person. So we have made it mandatory that whenever there is a call, you got your video to be on. Oh, it's a very small thing, but I think it gives you a perspective that you're talking to the person and contacting properly and giving the message right.
Truly. So it's that additional warmth. So coming to you, Amulya, in terms was being the so pioneering in technology, which are the key technology tools or the HR technologies that you see around, which are a must-have, or which are the ones that are moving the humanization part to the
Right.
next level? Yeah.
Right. So when people were in the office, of course, they were looking at the organization not only as a workplace, but a place where they're collaborating and meeting up with people. Their aspirations are taken care of. And there's a community, etc., and energies that are flowing in and out, right? But as soon as they went home and started working from other places, all these things actually vanished. So we had to look for a digital platform where people could communicate well online every time, or collaborate on the go for projects and deliverables that they have. So in terms of technologies, I would say that yes, for collaboration, you have to have a tool which can be workplace or what do you say, work chat, where people are connected. You have project teams and different fun teams, whether you're playing cricket or what do you say, a book club or a CSR club, where people of similar interests are exchanging views, though they are not going out, but still they can exchange views, so collaborate, so they don't feel that they're out of the office, right? So when you're talking about the humanizing HR, of course, conversational AI we have not put, but at least we have chatbots where people, whenever they have, if they need to look for something, queries on their policies or something related to them, they can always go there in the workplace and use the work chatbots to get their queries, of course, right? RPA is another area where we are using it, and which is actually bringing down a lot of non-value added stuff for our people and freeing them to do more meaningful work, right? And then of course AI to be used in recruitment and anywhere you want to where the data is huge, to cull out whatever data that you need to be. And of course, when you're talking about analytics as we go along, so whether you are using things like Tableau or Alteryx or ClickSense, or for that matter Power BI for the CEO or the CXO's view, this is coming in a big way. So I think in next 6 months or 1 year, most of the organization, as you've already in the initial slide you've shown, that most of the organization will be moving towards that. So we have a lot of organizations at different levels of their transition towards the digital transformation. So some are, of course, beginner level, but some are advanced. And then, of course, there are many MNCs who are actually up the curve, and they're using all this chatbots and AIs and RPA in a big way, or analytics in a big way, in humanizing HR and ensuring that people don't feel out of place when they are working from home and adopting the hybrid model.
Yeah, so coming to you, Prashant, have you seen a shift amongst managers, leaders? Are they craving for more data? Are they looking at more information on their own dashboards?
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's something which I definitely see, and more so, I think I'm very optimistic, even on the side of HR, to kind of be more evidence based in terms of their approach to working. And that's, I think, is where technology will play a very important role for helping HR take a lot of people decisions based on a data driven approach, rather than just on intuition or gut feeling. And usually it has been this the kind of a perspective which has been there, which has been prevalent for quite a long time, that HR is more on the softer side, and other functions are more on the harder side, right? And I think that image and that perspective is slowly changing over time. And I think we are in the right space and the right juncture today, where there's so much of technology advancement which are happening on the people analytics side, or for that matter in the ML space as well, AI space, where you can actually do a lot of work. The pioneering work which has been done by Google itself on that project Oxygen, which is there, right? I think that sets itself the right grounding for many people to actually look into that case study. There's an Harvard case study around that. So one should really read that to really understand how can you use data to take people decisions. So I think it's getting into a space which is going to be really interesting going forward, right? And I think we should always encourage many of our young HR professionals to really sharpen their analytical skills. And I think I also see there's going to be a lot of cross-functional, pollination that could happen, in terms of people who are from, say, technology actually coming into HR, and people from HR might be moving into technology or other functions, to explore and understand from each other how they could collaborate and work together. So I think that's something which is pretty much prominent. Also, for that matter, our CEOs and our CFOs and others as well are accessing a lot of data now and we are also fortunate enough that we have tools and technique by which we can present those data in the rightful forum, right, and also influence many decisions which are on people.
And picking up one of the question from the participants, coming to you, Amulya, like we have deployed these technologies, we have brought them. Is there any way that are we measuring the real ROI? As an organization, probably technology has been one of the space where the largest investments have gone in the last 1.5 years. So, are we measuring the ROI? Are we and how?
So I'll give you two examples. First was the RPA that we implemented for our compliances. So as you know, we have a lot of customers like Asian Paints or Times of India, Raheja, and all those, where we are doing managed service businesses, where they need compliance documents in terms of attendance and salary, register, etc. I had one person actually doing it for almost like 10 days, manually managing and doing VLOOKUP into sheets and then preparing those compliance reports and all. So we asked our RPA team to help us on that, and they actually taught the robots to do this. And now I think it takes 3 minutes to prepare one report. 3 to 5 minutes, and for one state, my report in terms of the attendance as well as the compliance in terms of the wage register is made, which actually is foolproof and without any errors. So you can look at how much of time actually we are saving for one person, and if you convert that into salary, it gives you a direct ROI, right? So that is one area. Number two areas which everybody can look at, of course, using AI to screen resumes. I think all the HR people will agree to that, because if you go to Naukri or if you go to LinkedIn or any other IM jobs or Monster, you have humongous data there, and getting the right fit for your profile is something traditionally our talent acquisition members were going one by one, looking at the profile and then thinking whether this guy is suitable or not suitable. But AI can actually reduce so much of your efforts if you put the profile data, what kind of person, years of experience, industry, etc., blah blah, 5-6 filters, and a set of resumes which can be 500 or 1,000. The AI can do that work in, I don't know, maybe in minutes or in hours, and give you the exact data to look forward to screening, taking it forward for your recruitment process. So that itself saves a lot of time, and you can have a direct ROI there, right?
Yeah, I think some of the this could be a direct application, but I think an interesting example of stack ranking or the preferred ranking of candidates, helping the time space coming down, and probably the efficiency is going up. So Prashant, would you like to add something as to how the technology coming in help the efficiencies going up directly, and do you see this supporting the future use case for further enhancement of technology induction into the organization?
Yeah, so Ved, if I could give you an example of our kind of an industry, so while we are working in a rural setup, there is also a fair amount of, and we are working with unsecured loans, so there is also a fair amount of fraud that could happen. So one is where you are using a lot of this technology also, like especially your imaging technology, which will basically scan your face and try to match with all your KYC documents which you are presenting to really see that you are the customer to whom the necessary amount is going. So I think this is one aspect which will curtail a lot of this fraud activities which are happening in and around which you are basically doing it through a physical mode. Second is, I think, a lot in terms of psychometry itself. So when we are recruiting a lot of people into the organization, we may be looking into their competence more from a perspective of their functional knowledge and other aspects on the skill side. But in terms of their own psychological, state of mind, or for that matter, their personality, a lot of that analysis could also be done through technology, which we are anyway trying out with some of those tools which are there. Third is also about what we call the proctoring process, and that's I think where we have really helped us a lot in terms of. So initially we were basically doing all our online testing or everything which was there, test and other things in a physical mode. So once we had to go into a virtual mode, we had to also make sure that people coming in at least don't get into that cheating mode, which usually happens when you are not. So I think proctoring also helps you in a way to kind of really see to that. So I think some of these things which are there, this technology at a very very basic level helps you a lot in kind of de-risking yourself from many of these fraudulent activities which are there. So that has been a good experience for us.
No, I think a direct application of Fantastics. I could see Shilpa coming in and going out and probably peeping in to the conversation, and she must be looking at the clock. Coming back to Amulya for maybe probably this last few comments where what are your suggestions in terms of the organizations or the HR leaders who are looking at adopting technology? What are your few bits that you would like to suggest? Yeah.
So, see, digital transformation is like oxygen to the organization. Okay. So, you see what unicorns and unicorns are doing to themselves. And most of the unicorns which has happened in the past are all digital companies, right? So, if you want to stay put as a traditional company and don't adopt digital transformation, so I think you are very near to your death and closure of the business. So it's like oxygen for you. You have to transform because of the business, because the people, because the demand of the industry and the people that you have. So sooner the better.
Wow. In fact, I read it somewhere that being digital as a company or being a digital company is no more a choice, but probably the first step to then start a business.
Right.
So
So that is
great,
actually
Amulya.
that's what separates the unicorns and unicorns from the other. You've seen what is happening to all these digital companies.
Wow. Coming back to you, Prashant, some
Sorry, Ved, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Hello?
I think he's got some bandwidth issue.
Okay, yeah, I think there's a bit of a bandwidth issue.
It's raining heavily in Delhi, I believe.
Okay. Yes, Ved, sorry, I could not hear your question.
He's not online.
So maybe we can close. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Yes,
No
Shilpa,
problem.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Shilpa,
I
go
think
ahead.
no problem.
Thank you,
Thank you
Shilpa.
so much, sir, for all your words of wisdom. Thanks a lot. So, as Captain Ved has already said, it was really. So we all really enjoyed, and along with that, we have learned a lot of things that how we can actually submerge technology with a human touch. So thank you so much, all. Thank you all the panelists and Captain Ved also. But as we all know that so whole Work Vision 2021. We have got his chair over here with us. So for doing a formal thanks, I would like to invite him. My dear friends, please welcome the chair of Work Vision 2021 and co-chair ASSOCHAM National Council on IR Policies, Reforms and Senior Vice President and Head HR, Adani Electricity Mumbai Limited, Mr. Moj K. Sharma. So, sir, we had met yesterday. Now, again, I am inviting you for the concluding remarks. You were there yesterday also. Today, since morning, you have been seeing all these things. So, what are your concluding remarks? Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Shilpa. I think I can say, wow, what an engaging conference learning experience we all had together for the last 2 days in this virtual conference. I think this was the confluence, I can say, the confluence of all the eminent speakers who brought not only their experience, but the case studies and how they can steer the future together. The leadership order, what we had from the mix of COs, CXOs, CHROs, I think from diverse sectors had been the USP of this conference. And I'm a little biased today. I'm HR and I respect my HR fraternity. But zing of the conference was, I think the ladies that made this session, they made the mark on this conference, and especially women and the budding youngsters who must have learned from the life stories of the eminent and successful women entrepreneurs. Deepali Nair, the chair of the session, had kept the session not only, I think, live and vibrant, but also triggered the spark from the aura of those speakers with great positivity from the exceptional, inspirational life stories and worth replicating learnings. Many thanks to all the respectful ladies. Especially, I would like to speak the names: Padma Shri, Miss Reena Nanavati, Miss Smriti Shetty Dalvi, Sumita Mahajan, Mona Shukla, Mofolu Waso. I'm speaking correctly from Australia. I think that was the best session I could learn as an HR person. Being the chair of the session of this conference, I should say that this event has opened the landscape of future to meet the customer and talent needs in the entire ecosystem. The think tanks who are still live from the last session, from the technology session, I think everyone, they deliberated on the emerging contemporary themes, having the grid talent economy, the art of scaling up businesses and balance shareholder returns and long-term growth of the industry and sectors. I think if I have to say that there is going to be a very intense competition among talent, organizations will be very careful in choosing the talent in the coming time from the market. So this will pose a lot of challenge to the job aspirants as well. The time has come when industry need to be very carefully do the assessments, have the right business models, have the relevant skill sets in the organization. I think that is going to pose a lot of challenge to the job aspirants as well. Experts also explored the importance of assessments to hire right talent in the first go itself with various assessment tools. Leveraging technology in HR has been the excellent mix of service providers and from the industry, the case studies like Dilip Patnaik from JSW, they all backed by very innovative solutions for the hybrid workplace that we heard from the experts and right now in the last session. So if I have to say that, if I have to sum up, I think all that unprecedented situations call for unprecedented challenges, unprecedented changes, whether that is from the systemic point of view, the processes point of view, the operating model point of view, and we all have witnessed during this time, there has been a shift in the business model that has never happened in the past. We all, as a professionals, we join the organizations, we steer the organizations and try to improvise the operating model so that whatever the shareholder returns that we envisage from that business model that can come. But during this time, we all have witnessed, be it of any sector, The business models have changed. The product lines have changed. Service deliveries have changed. So that is what has happened new, and that is what our experts from different sectors they had suggested us that how we can see the future. I think predicting the future had been very, very fancy buzzword in the corporate world. We had been predicting future based on the past trends, but COVID-19 has jolted the mind of all the business analysts and even the researchers. Uh, with the unprecedented trends in the recent past, no one was aware what is going to happen in the future. Even in the medical sector, the health sector, they were not able to predict the future as of now. Also, when we say wave 4, Japan has already predicted wave 4, wave 5. My God. So, as of now, also, when we are sloping down with the COVID trends, we do not know from where it is surging up. So, how the businesses are going to shape, maybe the agility we spoke, maybe the swiftness we spoke with the help of technology, whether those technologies are relevant for today, but how far that will still remain relevant for the future with that unpredictability in whole of the world, in the entire globe. I think that is going to be a challenge, and that is what our experts are carving the path for future, that maybe are setting a direction that definitely there is a light and we can move with those systemic changes that those are available with us. And with all innovative practices that all HR leaders have brought in this conference, I think that has set the tone. All sectors, if I see that pharma sector, there is no looking back. The changing times, I think whatever critical needs of the market are, they are able to meet up. Education sector, if I say, that is coming up with very high-tech environment. There is already a prediction, $450 billion market is already there in the world. So everywhere we see around, suddenly there is an upsurge of knowledge economy. The knowledge sector that has come up. The knowledge is available free. Now, from where we were coming, now where we are, and now we are talking about, like our experts were talking about, it is available in the mobile itself. Now the customized knowledge that is going to be available, we spoke about e-commerce platforms, the prudence of having the gig workers, the gig talent economy we are talking about. The government of India has already announced a lot of changes in the required labor laws in protecting the social benefits for the gig workers. Maybe they are trying to take the employment to the next level in the gig economy. But if we see the IT infrastructure, data centers, data science, data analysts, business analysts, cyber security, because that is going to be the next level, entire shift is going to take place. If I see that, what is going to be the most critical, if I say that tomorrow is going to be a very, very critical phase that is coming is the data theft. We all are very careful, and a lot of ransomwares have already started happening around the world. So what challenges are coming up? Those are phenomenal. Government of India is working. ASSOCHAM is very closely working with the Government of India and working with the concerned authorities. We make changes and we recommend those changes in the interest of industries. So telecom sector, if I see, I think that is going to be the lifeline of everything. All the disruptions, unless we take the shift of telecom to the next level, all these things what we are talking right now, I think that is where we are pushing the government, and we are requesting them to make all those changes swiftly, so that all that what we are talking right now, that can create a ground, a level playing ground where all these sectors can flourish and make a mark in the Indian economy. Thank you very much as a chairperson of the ASSOCHAM for this, especially for this conference, the virtual conference, the Work Vision 2021 that has come to an end, 2 days conference. I'm very delighted and very happy and very exciting experience I personally had. And I personally became a student for 2 days. Tomorrow, it is going to be a very, very special session by the Aeon, that the HR fraternity, and that will set the tone that how the HR analytics, what we are talking about, the other areas of the business partnership, that role is also changing. So how that is going to mark. So all these things are available to all of you. Thank you very much. And I, from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of ASSOCHAM, I really express and gratitude to all the speakers, all the chairs. They have done wonderful job. Thank you so much. And thank you, Shilpa. And thank you, Karina. She had been the lifeline behind the entire conference.
Of course,
Mr. Santosh Parashar. I think all the colleagues of ASSOCHAM, they have done wonderful job. Thank you so much for steering it from the front. So delighted.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma. And of course, on behalf of all the panelists and all the participants, I would like to thank this Work Vision 2021 because it is because of you people that we all could come on one platform and we could discuss about the work vision. Because post pandemic, when the things in the businesses are like just not good and businesses are trying to come back on track, at that time you have given us the work vision, what has to be done in the future. So thank you, Sharma. And along with that, I would like to thank the panelists also जो हमारे इस session में जुड़े हुए थे. I would like to thank the participants and of course the ASSOCHAM India, on which platform we all are here together. So thank you so much, and I'm really happy to share that yesterday's event has got 16,000 views in just one day, and like we were also live today in all our social media handles of Work Vision, so it's entirely great. And so look forward to more such opportunities to work with you. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Shilpa Bhavna signs off. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. Thank you.